Lily, will you keep an eye on him? Sharyl, aren't you a little ashamed? Well, he's your husband. So what? For 2 years I've been playing around with him. I'm sick of it. And Paul, you just don't know what he's like. He used to say the same thing about Joshua. Back in the day. Sharyl stood up and nervously walked around the room. Lily, don't you understand? It's not what I want at all. Lily shook her head stubbornly. I still don't understand. How can it be so? Joshua's not stupid. He understands. He know you were with your lover. I don't care. Maybe then he'll understand what I'm sacrificing. Lily jumped up, too. Have you forgotten that even now that Joshua's in a wheelchair, you're totally on his payroll? Haven't you forgotten that his bright head gives you everything? And you don't walk, and you still don't work. Sharyl squinted her eyes. Lily, are you still in love with Joshua? Sharyl laughed. The invalid? Who is of no use to you? Are you stupid or something? When Sharyl had finished laughing, she said calmly, Well, if you don't want to, you don't have to. I'll call and find out. There must be some kind of service. Lily shook her head. No need to call anywhere. I'll keep an eye on Joshua. Sharyl smiled. That's good. Here are your keys. I'm leaving early in the morning. You can figure it out on your own. Sharyl took off as swiftly as she had appeared. It was Joshua's swiftness and determination that made him love her, and he chose her over 2 friends. Lily had never been noisy or particularly witty, and she was far from Sharyl's determination. They were friends, most likely because opposites attract. But they were lucky to fall in love with the same guy. Lily immediately stepped aside. Of course, she was still in touch with Sharyl. They were friends, but she tried not to go to her house. It was very hard to see Joshua looking at her friend with loving eyes. In 5 years, Lily had never met someone who could displace Joshua from her heart, and just under 2 years ago, misfortune struck. Sharyl was at an acquaintance's birthday party. Joshua couldn't go. There was so much work to do. He worked as a programmer for a big firm. He was appreciated. He was paid very well, and Joshua really loved his job. In the evening, when he returned, Sharyl was still out, and he called her. She was overjoyed. The party had drawn to a close. Everyone had been drinking heavily, and the staunchest had moved to the bar. Among them was Sharyl. At the bar, she was immediately approached by some men from the drunken company of strangers. She asked her husband to pick her up, but the men at the bar did not want to let Sharyl leave. Joshua had to interfere, and after a brief fight, everyone ran away, but Joshua was still lying on the floor. The knife had damaged the vertebrae. Maybe someday, but not now for sure, the doctor said. It was as if Sharyl had been changed. She went to doctors, to institutes, but there was no result. Lily empathized with her so much, and one day she said, Sharyl, I didn't even know you had such a heart. What do you mean? What bloody heart? Don't you understand that I have to live with an invalid? A non-human, a half-human. I don't want to, but I know I can't leave him. You'll all think I'm bad, and I'll have to waste my life for it. Lily even recoiled. How can you say that? Joshua got hurt because of you. Who asked him to? If he's not a man and he can't fight, what the hell was he doing? He got me in more trouble than you'd wish on anybody. Sharyl went on for a long time talking about her hard fate, but Lily tried not to listen to her. She couldn't accept what Sharyl was saying. Joshua Lily came in around 12 o'clock, opened the door, walked in. Sharyl, is that you? Joshua came out of the room in his chair. Lily, what are you doing here? How did you get in? Lily silently held up her keys. I don't understand. Where's Sharyl? She had to go away on business. Joshua's face twisted. She did go to the sea with her Paul. Where did you... He looked up at her. How do I know? Well, Sharyl hasn't been very embarrassed about me lately. You know, that's the way they treat furniture. If it's there, it's okay. What's the point of paying attention to it? It's furniture. She spoke for 2 hours on the phone. That's as if I'm deaf. Joshua, no. Sharyl was just tired. Lily just didn't know what to say, and Joshua grinned. Tired? Tired of what, I wonder? I cook. I do the laundry, too. I learned how to handle the vacuum cleaner. Except that I cannot go to the store and take out the trash. And you're here to cover for your friend? Well, I can tell you, you shouldn't. I'm perfectly capable of handling everything myself. He turned his stroller around and headed for the room. And Lily, she probably should have left, but she got mad for some reason. She followed him in and said, "You know what? You could be mad at Sharyl, of course, but what have I ever done to you? Why are you taking it out on me?" Joshua looked at her, confused. "I wasn't. Lily, I'm sorry. I guess I didn't mean it that way. I meant, you don't have to waste your time on me. I can handle everything on my own. I didn't mean to offend you, really." Lily sat down on the couch. In fact, she really wanted to cry, and Joshua suddenly smiled. "How about some tea?" Lily jumped up. "I'll do it in a minute." She lifted the bag up. "I even bought a cake." Joshua was confused, then shook his head. "Lily, I need 15 minutes to finish the work. I'll finish it then, if you do it yourself, and then we'll have a talk." "Of course, Joshua." "Joshua, it's so nice to hear my name in your lips. You always say it in a special way." Lily looked embarrassed and ducked into the kitchen. Her cheeks were flushed, and even her hands were trembling. 15 minutes later, she had everything ready. All she had to do was pour the tea. Lily looked into the room. Joshua was sitting at the computer. She went back into the kitchen and stood by the window. All 5 years, she had only dreamed of being here, alone with Joshua in the apartment, drinking tea. "Why aren't you calling me?" Lily turned around quickly. "I didn't want to intrude." Joshua looked at her strangely. "How's the weather out there?" "It's gorgeous." "Joshua, why don't you ever go outside?" "It's just, there's one step on the first floor that I can't climb by myself. I don't want to ask anyone." "And Sharyl?" "Well, what about Sharyl? She's always busy. She says you can get some air on the balcony. It's no big deal. I often go to the balcony. It's especially nice in the evening." Lily, to be honest, didn't understand anything. Sharyl always told her that she almost carries pots after him, but it turns out it's the opposite. "Joshua, why don't we go for a walk in the park after tea?" He looked at her, surprised. "Do you have any free time?" "All the time you want." She was sitting on a bench in the park, and Joshua was opposite. There was real bliss on his face. "Joshua, I don't understand. What's keeping you then? You're so independent." He grinned. "I feel sorry for her. She's not used to work, and she's not fit for life. Although, I don't know what to do now. Paul, that's too much." "Do you love her?" He shrugged. "I did." 2 weeks flew by like one day. Lily knew that Sharyl would be back in 2 days, and then that was it. Joshua wouldn't be around anymore. She arrived in the evening. The apartment smelled like something delicious. "Lily, come into the kitchen. I've made dinner." Lily entered the kitchen with a smile, surprised to see the table set, the wine, the candles. "That's it. I thought I'd say goodbye." Lily looked at him, and he at her. "Lily, don't look at me like that. You're breaking my heart. We just can't have anything because I'm disabled. I would never put a burden on you like that." "You're not a burden." "Lily, sit down." Joshua tried to smile. "You're not going to believe this, but I cooked the meat royally." They both tried to put aside what they were thinking and just enjoyed the evening. Joshua was telling some funny stories, and Lily was laughing. At one point, she saw that Joshua froze and looked at her. Lily quietly knelt beside him and kissed him. In the morning, Lily woke up to the fact that someone was looking at her. She opened her eyes and smiled. "Joshua." He buried his face in her hair. "God, Lily, what are you doing to me?" And then Joshua walked her to the door. "Lily, leave the keys." She put the keys on the nightstand and turned around. "Joshua, I just want you to know. I've always loved you. I still do." He covered his ears with his hands. "Shut up. Don't say anything else. I realized a lot tonight, and I realized that you... Lily, I'm an invalid. We're not going to change anything. Understand, sooner or later, it's going to be like with Sharyl. You'll get tired, and I won't survive." "Joshua, no, you're wrong. You're wrong, that's all. When you love someone, you can't get tired of them. I don't want you to live with an invalid. I want you to have a good life. Joshua." He closed the door. Lily stood for a minute and rushed down the stairs. Sharyl arrived 2 days later. "Joshua, hi." "Hey, how was your rest?" "Good, but not enough. You should have stayed longer." Sharyl looked at her husband in surprise and followed him into the room. It's like you're not glad your wife is here, aren't you? Joshua looked at her angrily. Do I have to be? Oh yeah, I forgot to ask. How was Paul? Not a disappointment? Sharyl grinned. Did Lily blab? What a fool. She's in love with you. Even what you are doesn't stop her. Don't talk about her like that. Sharyl raised an eyebrow. Wow, honey, did you two have an affair while I was gone? Why? A naive fool and an invalid. Aren't you a couple? Sharyl grinned. Joshua gritted his teeth. So, my dear, you can pack your things and go on your way. Sharyl looked at him in surprise. Are you out of your mind? Or do you really think Lily would care about you? No one needs you. You know what you are, don't you? Pack it up. Sharyl grabbed the phone. Hello, Lily? Don't you have anyone else? What are you doing with a handicapped person? I'm going to die of laughter. The invalid found a mistress. Well, listen to me. I'm not going anywhere. Don't even think about it. What, you've decided to move out of Grandma's cottage and into an apartment? You wouldn't dream of it. Lily hung up the phone and cried. God, why is everything so complicated? And Sharyl was right. Lily, her friend, had just taken advantage of the fact that Sharyl had been gone for 2 weeks. Lily's a real bitch. A month passed. Sharyl did not call, nor Lily. There's no question of calling Joshua. Lily felt guilty, not for betraying her friend, but for failing to convince Joshua that he wasn't disabled, and that she didn't care what he was like, that... Her musings were interrupted by a knock on the door. Lily got up. It must have been one of the neighbors. The houses in the private sector were dense, and everyone knew each other. She opened the door and almost fell over. Joshua was on the porch. He had a bouquet of flowers on his knees. Hello. Hi. Lily, anyway, I can't live without you. If you're not afraid of the prospect of becoming the wife of an invalid. Lily smiled and opened the door wider. And in the evening, Sharyl came in. She dropped Joshua's bags of stuff at the door and went right on the offensive. Don't even think about living in the apartment. Lily and Joshua looked at each other. Joshua hummed. Well, that's not your call. Sharyl hesitated for a moment, but continued. And anyway, I'll sue you for the contents. You have to pay for my allowance. Joshua laughed. I'm an invalid, and I got the apartment from my parents. So, Sharyl, you'll have to go to Paul. Sharyl looked confused. He's married. Joshua closed the door. Lily pressed herself against him and held out a piece of paper. There, I have a surprise for you. In his hands, there was a picture of a new life. When Joshua saw the picture, he could not hold back his tears. He hugged Lily tightly, kissed her, and whispered, I love you.